At first glance, this painting appears calm and controlled. A composed scene, carefully arranged figures. Nothing that immediately suggests danger. There is no dramatic action, no screams, no visible violence. And yet many viewers report the same reaction. Unease. This feeling doesn't come from what the painting shows, but from what it quietly suggests. The discomfort is subtle, almost invisible. And that's exactly what makes it powerful. The artist lived in a time when paintings were not decoration. They were statements. Art was meant to teach, to warn, to expose human behavior. Beauty was never the final goal. Meaning was. And sometimes, meaning was meant to disturb the viewer, not emotionally, but intellectually. This painting belongs to that tradition. It doesn't guide you gently. It leaves you alone with your interpretation. Look closely at the posture of the figures. Nothing is exaggerated. Nothing is clearly wrong, but something feels misaligned, that the gaze does not welcome the viewer. It studies them. The space feels slightly compressed. The balance feels almost correct, but not completely. This isn't visual shock. It's psychological. Tension. Your mind senses a contradiction before your eyes can explain it. The human brain is built to recognize patterns. We feel safe when things follow familiar rules. But when a painting almost follows those rules and then subtly breaks, the brain reacts, not with fear, with uncertainty. This painting exists in that narrow space between familiarity and threat. And that's why it lingers in your mind longer than expected. Many elements here appear purely decorative. But in historical painting, decoration often carries meaning. Stillness can suggest absence. Silence can imply something unresolved. Light doesn't always reveal. Sometimes it isolates. What looks calm may represent control. What looks orderly may hide tension. Nothing here is random. Every choice contributes to the atmosphere of unease. This work was never meant to comfort the viewer. It was designed to provoke reflection about authority, responsibility, or human behavior. The artist doesn't accuse. He doesn't explain. Instead, he places the viewer inside a situation and lets their mind complete the story. The painting becomes a mirror, not of what we see, but of what we assume. Asterisk, asterisk. The most unsettling artworks are never the ones that show. Everything. They are the ones that withhold information. This painting does not give answers. It gives hints. And then it steps back. There is no clear action to follow. No obvious event to explain. No single interpretation to rely on. Instead, the artist creates a controlled silence, a space where the viewer is forced to participate. Your mind begins to ask questions. The painting never answers. What happened before this moment? What is about to happen after? Why does everything feel so carefully restrained? This is the power of suggestion. The painting doesn't shock you visually. It unsettles you mentally. Because once your imagination takes over, the artwork no longer needs to show anything at all. And that's when it becomes truly disturbing. Not because of what it reveals, but because of what it allows you to imagine. Asterisk, asterisk, at this point, something subtle has already happened. You're no longer just looking at the painting. You're responding to it. And that's exactly what makes this artwork powerful. Most paintings are passive. They sit in silence and wait to be admired. This one doesn't. It creates a psychological exchange between the image and the viewer. The longer you stay with it, the more it begins to feel active. Not because it moves, not because it changes, but because you do. Your perception shifts. Your assumptions weaken. Your attention sharpens. The painting offers no clear narrative, no obvious moral, no final explanation. And that absence is intentional. When art refuses to explain itself, the viewer is forced to fill in the gaps. Memory, fear, curiosity, and imagination step in. That's when the painting stops being decorative and starts becoming experiential. The figures feel distant, yet present. The space feels quiet, yet charged. The light reveals, but also isolates. Nothing screams danger. Nothing demands fear. And yet, the tension remains. This is not visual discomfort. It's psychological unease. The artist understood something fundamental about human attention. What we almost understand is far more powerful than what is made explicit. That's why this painting doesn't age. That's why it still holds power. Centuries later, because it doesn't rely on shock, violence, or spectacle. It relies on restraint. And restraint is timeless. By refusing to guide the viewer emotionally, the artwork gives you complete freedom. And that freedom is unsettling. You are no longer being told what to feel. You are discovering it yourself. By now, the painting has done something unusual. It hasn't given you answers. It hasn't told you a story. It hasn't revealed a clear message. Instead, it has created a state, a quiet tension that lingers, even when you stop looking directly at it. This is the moment where most viewers instinctively pull back. Not because they're afraid, but because uncertainty demands effort, and effort makes us uncomfortable. The painting doesn't chase your attention. It waits. It allows silence to do the work. It allows time to become part of the composition. And that's when the question changes. Not, what am I seeing? But why does this feel intentional? Because nothing in a work like this is accidental. The placement of the figures, the direction of their gazes, the way space opens and closes around them. Each element is measured. Each absence is deliberate. This is where interpretation begins, not with theories, not with conclusions, but with awareness. You begin to notice relationships instead of objects, tension instead of action, meaning instead of decoration. The painting stops being a surface and becomes a structure. And once you reach this point, there is no going back to a neutral view. You are now inside the logic of the artwork, which leads to the most important realization. If the discomfort feels designed, then the message isn't hidden in a single detail. It's embedded in the entire composition. And that's exactly what we need to examine next. At this stage, the painting must be read as a whole, not as isolated symbols, not as hidden messages, but as a complete system. The figures do not exist independently. They are arranged in relation to one another. The space between them matters as much as the figures themselves. What is shown is important, but what is not shown is even more revealing. There is no central hero, no clear action, no obvious resolution. This absence creates tension. Your eye moves across the painting, searching for balance, but never fully finding it. Light does not guide you to clarity. It fragments the scene. Some areas are emphasized. Others are left ambiguous. This imbalance is intentional. It forces the viewer to remain alert, to question, to interpret. The painting does not explain itself. It demands participation. And that is where its power lies. By the end, this painting is no longer just an image. It has followed you through the video. It has sat quietly in the background of your thoughts. And now it asks something in return. Not admiration, not fear, but awareness. Because the most unsettling thing about this painting is not what it shows. It's what it reveals. It reveals how easily we ignore subtle warnings, how often we mistake silence for safety, how quickly we look away when something feels wrong but offers no obvious explanation. Great art doesn't shock you once. It stays with you long after the screen goes dark, long after the details fade. It leaves behind a question you can't fully answer, and that is its power. Great artists don't need to be copied. They deserve to be respected, studied, and questioned. If this painting made you feel uncomfortable, Pause for a moment before scrolling away. Ask yourself why, then tell me in the comments what you noticed and what you felt.